Stromquist from ControlTrends here with Mad Mike Marston here at the North Pole. You didn't think it existed, but Christmas is coming early because EasyIO has the worldwide conference in Paris, France. Mike, tell us a bit about what's going on, buddy.
Well, Paris, France, you've got to be there. Come and join us. We've got a fantastic event, and this time we're going to be releasing some really cool BACnet stuff because here's where we see it going. We think now it's best of breed. People mix and match, just like we do with our clothes or anything else. People take the best of breed these days. So you will now be able to use our system by around Christmas. We're going to release this at the show and show you all this new BACnet stuff. We're going to have BACnet trending, BACnet alarms, BACnet schedules. So you can put EasyIO under any system, whether it be Niagara, whether it be FinStack, whether it be IntelliStar, whether it be whoever.
Well,
Isn't that amazing?
No, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Great product. EasyIO, the Beast from the East, has won at the ControlTrends Awards 3 years in a row. It's going to be a good time. We did the conference in Madrid last year. It was an awesome time.
It was brilliant. Really
all right,
good.
so more information, go to easyio.com. And Mike, do I get to meet Santa Claus now?
Absolutely. We're at the North Pole after all.
Hi, this is Eric Stromquist. Welcome to ControlTalk NOW, your smart buildings video cast and podcast. For the week ending June 28th, 2015, we talk about smart buildings, building automation controls technologies, the latest, all that's happening, and all that is possible because of the man, the myth, the legend, my co-host, the one, the only, Kenny Smyers from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kenny, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Eric. I don't know how to follow up with that kind of exciting announcement of my presence, but I'll tell you, it wouldn't be possible without Eric Stromquist. It's a great show. I'll tell you what's getting exciting. It was a heck of a week. I mean, it really, when so much news breaks, and we thank all the people that continuously give us inputs and make sure we don't miss something. It's really good to know that a lot of people have information, and the information is valuable, it's actionable, it's usable, and it's a lot of fun.
No, it really is, Kenny. It really is. And, a very, very big week. My weekends always start with several shots of espresso and Kenny Smyers, and that gets me going. And it was an exciting week, Kenny, and we got some really, really great feedback. So first of all, let's start off with Mad Mike Marston, sometimes known as the Mad World. That was Mike. We caught up with him in Colorado up at the top of Pikes Peak or close to it, and Mike making announcements about the EasyIO conference coming up in Paris, France, which is going to be spectacular. So register now, register early, get your spot. We've talked about it on the show for about the last 6 months, but guess what, Kenny? We'll blink, and it'll be time to go to Paris. So any more on that you got?
No, I was doing some preliminary looking at if you're coming from the States and you want to travel and get the best tickets, they say not to wait more than 45 days before the time you want to leave. The optimal time to buy tickets is on a Tuesday and Wednesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Check the prices, so that's what we've been doing, is looking at and see what they cost. But there's some very good ticket pricing coming up between your 40 and 50 days out from the date. The date is September 20th through the 22nd. It's going to be in Paris. It's an amazing, environment there. I mean, just look at the pictures here. You got the Eiffel Tower. We're actually going to have a meeting in the Eiffel Tower. We're going to the Lido, that restaurant nightclub. It's supposed to be like Las Vegas to the tower, and then they're going to do an interesting. They're going to give you an iPad, and you're going to go around to Paris trying to find, some kind of an interesting game theme type thing where it's going to be unusual. It's going to be a lot of fun, but more importantly, they're going to be talking about the enhancements they made to the building management and energy solutions with the EasyIO, particularly the FG32.
Well, it is really cool, Kenny. And listen, a bit of a conflict for everybody. Kenny and I have been, like I said, talking about this thing for the last 6 or 7 months. ever since Mad Mike let us know the dates. There is a conflict with Honeywell Momentum, I believe, Kenny. So I know for our team, it's a real conflict. So half of our team is going to go to Honeywell Momentum because that's an event you don't want to miss either. So I guess the good news for everybody is you can send part of your team to Honeywell Momentum and the rest to Paris, France. But boy, we had a big time last year. We stopped last year on the way. We covered the Madrid conference. If you want to see what this is all about, you can sort of check that out. But we stopped, Kenny, in Paris on the way over. And boy, did we have a good time there. A lot of footage there, a lot of famous people there that have lived there, a lot of great artists. And Kenny and I got to see a bunch of those places and sort of share a bunch of those places. So I'm all up for the iPad thing, Kenny. I think you and I should do pretty good with that.
I'm looking forward to it. Like I say, it sounds too fun. Huh? No, I'm kidding. It's never too fun. It's just it's coming. It's like you said. We look down at the calendar now. It's we're down with June, so July is getting started here, and starting off with a big holiday, July 4th. Next thing you know, it's mid-July. The next thing you know, it's August. So I think the sweep of the time is incredible. I can't believe the week went by as fast as it did.
Yeah, so it's almost July. So Kenny, another really cool thing. A lot of people reach out to us, and I got to tell you, anytime Kenny and I get somebody that reaches out to talk about liking the show, we really, really appreciate that. We got a super nice email from John Zappa. John is the owner of buildingscontrolsgroup.com. They're up in Minneapolis, and what a great guy, Kenny. John is very innovative. One of these guys, he took a dare. He jumped out on his own and is doing very well. So if you're in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area, you might want to check him out. Again, it's buildingcontrolsgroup.com. And John was really sort of taken with the book review we did on 0 to 1 and talking about the book Bold. And John recommended a book that's really had an influence on him called Great by Choice by a guy named Jim Collins. I don't know what about you, Kenny, but I've read some of his books in the past. He did like Good to Great and some other books. So this guy is quite a writer. So I'm looking forward to getting that on our review list, Kenny, and rocking and rolling. Had you read any of the Jim Collins stuff before?
No, but I did some background once we got that. Once John mentioned that, I checked it out. He was a mathematics student at Stanford University and MBA, followed by a stint with McKinsey & Company as a consultant. Then he worked as a product manager for Hewlett-Packard, and then he went back to Stanford University to get his graduate degree in School of Business. He had a distinguished teaching award, so then he went into writing. But he's a very hands-on guy and very futuristic and just real. Again, he brings a lot of information, puts it in a positive light, and then I think after you spend time reading it, you get real benefit out of the time you invest. I love getting good books, and you and I are fans of some of the the new mind share coming out. It's much more positive than I think the last couple generations of books were always like warnings and we're reaching some sort of a terminus and it's bad. But these new guys are these new hosts of books coming out seem to be very upbeat and very informative to take this technology. They warn you about it, but then they also tell you, this is where if you put your chips here, you're going to be successful, and tomorrow is a great day. So I really enjoy reading those kind of books.
Well, they really do, and according to Bold, among other books that we've read, the technology, we're just at the precipices of it, the very beginning of it, and they say that the next 5 to 10 to 15 years, you got a better chance of being a billionaire than any time throughout history, and they'll explain that in the book. When they talk about that. But if you like to read like business books or whatever, Kenny and I were raised as readers. Please let us know, and we will definitely talk about it on the show. Hopefully, we can get John on the show to talk a little bit about his take on Great by Choice by Jim Collins. But Kenny, that's on my list. I'm gonna be getting to it sooner rather than later. So good stuff. Again, John Zappa. One of the innovative guys in our industry, and he handles EZIO, Kenny. So maybe we'll see him out in Paris as well.
That'd be nice. All right, it's a big week. I think the first couple posts are product oriented. Do you want to get started with the cool new thermostat from BASSG with Alper Olmiser? This was a very interesting post because this was hands on. This is at Realcomm, and it was Project Haystack. It was Haystack Connect. But it was a really nice product. It was a Turkish product, and it's small, compact, had a very brilliant screen. But what we got a kick out of was the control aspect of it. You can put your dolly lighting ballast directly into the thermostat and control your lighting from your thermostat. So some great products coming out of all over the world. But Alper was very proud of this thermostat. He thought it was like a product that could compete with anybody's out there, and had a lot of technology in a very small space.
No, I thought it was really cool, Kenny, and I think you're right. It's got the dolly lighting port right on the back of it, so you can control your dolly ballast directly from the thermostat. Plus, it's got Modbus outputs, BACnet MSTP outputs, so you can use it to collect data to your systems. And I'd be very interested to hear what our friend Mike Salvador Dolly Welch out of Lighting Control in England has to say about that, because Mike's a big dolly lighting guy. And I sort of owe Albert an apology, Kenny, because he has just got such a great system. And at the same time we filmed the thermostat, you actually interviewed him, and he showed his new analytics upgrades on his analytics packages. And unfortunately, I was trying to film the screen on that. So Albert looks great, but the screen doesn't, it just didn't do it justice. So we're going to try and get that video reformatted, because Albert's got some really, really cool stuff. I think one of the young guns in our industries, and I think you can reach him at BASSG.com, I think, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
We'll post it on the it's on the
we'll
website.
Put it in the show notes. Cool.
If you catch it. But yeah, he does a lot. He's like a Master Systems integrator, but he also does OEMs. He does the Tritium Niagara OEM. So he's a pretty smart guy.
So he's in Turkey, business. I think, this week. He said he was heading back home for a while, and so wish Albert safe travels. And listen, if you're listening to Albert, like I said, we'll redo it. We'll reshoot that video, get it up. But in the meantime, check him out for sure. He's come on as a ControlTrends Award sponsor this year, which we really appreciate. And speaking of that, Kenny, had his conversation with Eugene Mazzo, DG Logic. DG Logic has come on as a platinum sponsor again. So many thanks to Eugene and the team. These guys are doing a lot of work with Cisco right now, and they keep evolving. So Eugene's got some special stuff that he's going to be coming out with in the next couple of weeks. And stay tuned to ControlTrends, because we're going to make sure you stay informed, not just on Eugene's products, but everybody else's as well.
Hey, Eric, you forgot your hat. You told me you were going to wear a special hat.
Well, I did, Kenny. I was wearing the hat, and we got a little bit delayed. And so here's a proposition Kenny and I have to all of our platinum sponsors, which is if you will send us a hat, we will wear it on the show. Obviously, we can't wear all the hats on the same show, but with all the platinum sponsors we got revved up right now, we might have to switch them in between cuts. But we'll wear your hat on the show, just all part of the advertising that we will help you do as a ControlTrends Awards Platinum sponsor. And Kenny, I guess real quick, if we got a list of who we got platinum wise, I mean, we got quite a list so far, including EasyIO, Mad Mike Marston, KMC was the company you were referring to. Una DeBoer, Delta Controls is on as a platinum. Johnson Controls, Chris Eichmann is back, the most handsome man in the controls industry. Kind of looks like Charlton Heston. Gary Weber and Bolimo have committed again as a platinum sponsor. I don't want to leave anybody else. Obviously, we mentioned Eugene Mazzo, Contemporary Controls, George Thomas and the boys.
Well, SMC, Sierra Monitor Corporation.
Yeah. And very exciting news from those guys, Kenny. It looks like we're going to have their first show. Their networking show will be airing hopefully next week, if not the week after for sure. But great new company that we want to introduce to the ControlTrends community. They do a lot of networking type stuff, primarily on the industrial side, but they have a product offering for the BAS side too that I think our audience is going to really take to.
Yeah, Eric, I just want to reiterate. So we have EasyIO, SMC, Sierra Monitor Corporation, KMC, Delta Controls, Contemporary Controls, Bolimo, Johnson Controls. I believe Siemens is coming on next, and then of course we have DG Logic.
Yeah, we did good. And there's some other ones out there that I suspect will come on very soon. The deal basically right now is we got a special that if you come on and commit before August 1st to be a platinum sponsor, you'll get a special rate, and you don't have to pay until September 31st. So that way you get all the benefits of being a platinum sponsor, and you don't have to pay until September 1st or September 31st. So. All right, Kenny. Well, with that, let's move on to the second post. We have Big Dog.
All right, Eric. The next post was ACI's new CO2 series room and duct CO2 sensors. These new products strengthen an already distinguished product lineup from ACI. These sensors are cost-effective means of monitoring carbon dioxide levels in industrial, school, In office-type environments, the output data can be used in conjunction with a building automation system or standalone demand control ventilation system to limit energy consumption and turn the indoors into a healthier area for your students in particular. Some great products. Well done, ACI.
Absolutely. Barry Flash Gordon, calling Barry Flash Gordon. Where is our man, Barry Flash Gordon, one of the first recipients of the Best Technical Support Awards at the ControlTrends Awards, one of the movers and shakers in our industry. Barry Flash Gordon, we miss you, buddy. We need to get you back on the show. ACI does some great products, Kenny, as you know. A lot of people handle them. They really fit in well. They great customer service. And I miss Barry. So, Barry, if you're listening, reach out to us. We want to get you back on the show soon.
Yep. Hello, Barry. I talk to him all the time via email or every once in a while I talk to him on the phone. But
so maybe it's just me then. Barry just doesn't like me anymore. Maybe that's it.
No, I think what's happened is your guys were probably talking to him
they probably
all
did.
along.
Yeah, he does great customer support for sure.
He sure does. The next post, Eric, was kind of an unusual post I came across. Was the Department of Energy's now Crowdsourcing Initiative, seeking to solve building-related problems using crowdsourcing. So that's pretty cool. So they call all building technology innovators the Building Technologies Office, BTO, like Bachman Turner Overdrive. Every time I see BTO, that's what I think about. Is partnering with successful Sunshot Catalyst crowdsourcing initiatives to identify and solve problems related to the software development, data, and or automation. So what they're doing is they're offering a cash prize. Individuals who submit a problem statement will have a chance to win a $1,000 cash prize. The problem statements are due by July 15th to the DOE. And there's a great video. In other words, I thought it was one of the most, we talked about social media and how now it's just part of everyday conversation. But when the social media came in and Twitter came in and Facebook and everything, the government did not sit idle. It got its people engaged, and they really did a good job. And I think you need to watch this video to see it because it's a very, very clever 2-minute explanation of how the government is going to begin using new ideation. So just a good post, but they're really the goal behind it is promote better engagement with building occupants to improve the ability to balance energy and occupant comfort objectives in the building. So in addition to submitting a problem statement, participants are also invited to vote and comment on ideas that have already been submitted. And to browse the building-related statements, there's a link, so make sure you visit ControlTrends and take a look at that because it's a very interesting, innovative idea from the Department of Energy.
Well, it really is, Kenny, and it sort of smacks a little bit of our friend Lindsay Baker and Comfy Systems. Remember that product that she had where they found out if you actually got the tenants involved with, I'm too hot, I'm too cold, or whatever, where they could sort of vote and felt like they had a modicum of control. The majority of them used less energy than if they thought they had no control at all. So it's interesting, and then I think you take that in conjunction with the new generation of people that are coming on board, the younger people that are really concerned about the environment and sustainability, and the fact that they want to participate. Crowdsourcing makes an awful lot of sense. And I think another example, Kenny, that you and I have seen very close and up front is, and I would call it crowdsourcing, is the whole thing with Haystack Connect. So you can go back and see those videos about how those guys and girls are rolling and what they're accomplishing. But I think it's a harbinger of things to come. And I think that, we're in a day and age, especially with the younger generation, and we got a young lady, Anonymous J, who is sort of keeping Kenny and I clued in on sort of, how the younger people are viewing things. And one of the fascinating things that she's told us, Kenny, is that they see our industry as being an industry that can make a difference because sustainability and making the planet more ecological free is a huge, huge value to them. And another value to them is to be able to participate and make a difference. And we saw that last week with Brand Farron when we talked about him, that the people that are going to have you sort of find your way through this new change are going to be people that don't think like you, don't act like you, don't look like you, probably people you don't like, but they're mandatory to survive. So it's interesting. It seems like the government has picked up on this trend and maybe is even leading a little bit, which is kind of a cool thing, huh?
Well, they've got some dynamic people working for them. I don't want to blow the trumpet too loud, but you're talking about collaboration again. The base level of collaboration. And you get more minds involved and people not looking at each other as competitors rather than co-competitor or cooperative competitors versus arch enemies and whatever. But it reminds me of the old days. Historically, to solve problems, governments used to put great rewards out there, so somebody could come up with a gyroscope, or somebody could come up. It really incentivized the inventiveness of the population at large, and invited everybody to get involved. And you'd be surprised who comes up with the great ideas. And like you said last week, technology, the people that create the technology aren't the ones that implement it all the time, because they don't know how to implement it. A great story I remember with GPS. I actually had a meeting where one of the people that was his team developed GPS. They did it probably for the government first, and then once it became part of the corporate world, they didn't know how to sell it. They couldn't take it to the market, so they sold the technology to somebody, and then it all became about, we were using MapQuest back in those days, and you print out this 5-page thing with a map. And one of the first guys that used GPS to successfully get to this meeting in the rent-a-car had a GPS system, and the guy said, "Yeah, that used to be my baby." And unfortunately now, every truck, every cab, everybody that's driving now has GPS. But at the time that they had that technology, they couldn't sell it to the market. They didn't know how to do it. So I think we're going to see the government invite more and more participation from some of these young people out there, geniuses looking at things from a different perspective. And now that they have access to the internet, they can do a lot of homework themselves. There's that freeness of information. And I'm excited about that too, because it keeps me involved. I like to know where our money's being spent. I like to see the development, like the smart grid. You track it. You go right on the Department of Energy's website and track a lot of this information that you don't realize it's available.
So Kenny, sort of that same principle, and it's something Kenny and I talk a lot about in the networked economy. The rules that applied before don't apply. As a matter of fact, they're completely turned upside down. So you have to be transparent. You have to share. Crowdsourcing is a great example. I mean, Kenny, we talked probably last year about a gold company, and gold's one of the most competitive industry. Gold mining is one of the most competitive industries there are. And there was a company that was about to go bankrupt. They thought they had, a vein, if you will, of gold someplace. They couldn't get to it. So rather than, being all secretive about it, this guy, I think it might have been Gold Corp. It was one of the big ones that's making a ton of money now. He actually did just what you said. He actually put all the information up online, all their maps, all the stuff they had, and offered a prize for somebody who could figure out where the gold was. And it was a hefty prize, and within no time, somebody from out of the blue had come up and found a solution to that. But that was heresy. I mean, people thought this guy was absolutely nuts. How could you possibly share intellectual property and everything with everybody else? It was ludicrous. But this guy wound up winning. So sort of getting back to, I think Haystack's a good example of people that are using this principle, but can you think of anybody else in our industry that's sort of embracing this?
Well, not in our industry. I just finished the audiobook on fracking, and that whole industry was almost the same way. Their industry, they share information. Everybody has like corporate spies to go out and see, but they would try different drilling methods, and instead of them hiding that, they would share it. They had a very open environment on technology, and that's why they all were able to use the new technology so quickly and so effectively. So they learned that the water was better than this fluid they were using, all these chemicals. And the government was very, very supportive. It couldn't have been done as quickly and as successfully without the support of the government giving these guys incentives, these companies incentives. But I think one of the most important takeaways of that audiobook was the nature of sharing information led to the betterment of all their businesses. Yes. So I think it's coming a little bit to us. I think you're right with the Haystack, being probably the leading edge in our industry of taking information, putting it into an open source environment, and let people add to it and then see what happens. Well,
yeah, and I think you could argue that Sedona's that way. I think you could even argue that Niagara's that way, where they're taking the code and making it available. So there are examples, but primarily on the software side. But I haven't seen anybody from a manufacturing side yet that I'm aware of that has sort of really, sort of opened it up and maybe it's not feasible. I don't know. I digress. Kenny, let's move on to the next post before I embarrass myself.
What kind of consulting engineer shows up at the Realcomm IBCon? And this was a great post because, number one, it was a local guy, our 7 Minutes in Control with Rob Allen. He interviews Donny Walker.
Donny Walker, yep.
Yep, from Newcombe and Boyd out of Atlanta. And that hits the nail on the head again, too, because, here we are, being a trends, being the locus of control, as far as information and trends, that Realcomm IBCon is such an incredible harbinger of all the new trends coming in the industry, that these engineers now are getting out to these meetings and really learning what's coming. I think the engineers are probably not getting as much credit for what they do, because they seem to be static. They don't seem to be involved in the new technologies. They don't seem to be aggressively pursuing what's next. A lot of it, you have to explain to them, and you're surprised maybe sometimes that they don't have more of a grasp on what's happening. But this young engineer was out there, and he says, "You got to be here." I mean, if you're trying to do master planning, you're trying to do campus technology, laying out the data centers and configuring. If you're not here at this show where the new technologies are actually being presented, then you're not keeping up with the times.
Well, Kenny, I tell you what, agreed. So a tale of two engineers, if you will, kind of like a tale of two cities. So in Atlanta, so you got on one hand, you got Donny Walker, Newcombe Boyd. Donny is curious. He reaches out to us. He's open-minded. He goes to these conferences. He's up to speed on the greatest technology. No wonder Newcombe Boyd is, one of the preeminent engineers. Now, the other engineer, and I obviously won't name a name here, another very well-known engineer in Atlanta, consulting engineer, and we've gone out, actually, believe it or not, the owner of the company, a family friend. So we go in and talk to all his engineers, and we get to the subject controls and building automation controls, and they go, well, the guy at the end of the hall does all the control specs. He won't attend the meeting, and he won't specify anything but train, because that's what he's done forever. And his mentality is, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And if you sort of look at, that sort of mentality, so the train guy loves him, obviously, right? So probably helps put his kid through school or whatever, but the train guy loves him. And if train happens to have and I'm not knocking train, if they happen to have the best technology or it's the best fit, then hey, it's a win for everybody. But if they don't, then the customer gets underserved, which I say, and I think that my experience, Kenny, and I think the tide is shifting, is that the majority of consulting engineers are like the guy that's down at the end of the office, got his head in the sand, doesn't want to change anything. It's the same spec he's used for the last 10 years, not going to change it, doesn't want to know, doesn't want to mess with it. I think that's been the majority of engineers, and I think that has created a market for so many companies to come in and talk to the owners about the latest technology, because they're not getting it from their consulting engineers, because for the most part they have not been educated. Exception, obviously, Donny Walker, people like Donny Walker, Newcombe and Boyd, who are cutting edge, hands on. They get in the trenches, they get dirty, they call you up. If we have any sort of lunch and learn on building automation controls, Donny and his team are there. He might be the only consulting engineer in Atlanta that does that. Not that we don't invite them all, but I think for a consulting engineer to add value, they more than anybody need to be ahead of this curve and advising owners on their choices.
Well, I think that's another industry, the engineering community. Without them, we don't progress as a society. ASHRAE, the importance of ASHRAE is, to me, it's like the unions and the trades. You have to have them, and they need to be constantly. They need to take the credit that they deserve. There's so much that they've done that they're like silently part of our infrastructure. But they spend a lot of time to be top-notch professionals. But I think what's happening is we have a disruptive aspect coming into engineering. And I think a lot of the mid-sized or small engineers are either going to be those guys that jump on the latest and greatest technologies and stay ahead of it to survive. And then some of them are just kind of going into they don't want the disruption. And I think it's almost the same way with a lot of corporations, where you get some what the girls call them, the gray hairs or something.
Yeah.
She had a name for them, and it wasn't very nice. But and I got gray hair too, so I just concerned too that if you're not changing and evolving, then you're really going to be surprised one day when somebody moved all your cheese off the plate, and you're not the first pick, and you're not aware of new technologies and how they're converging. So I think the disruption's hitting those guys as well. They're competing against contractors that have engineering staffs. We have a post coming up here where you've got incredible skills and capabilities and knowledge inside of a contracting firm, that can very well compete against engineering firms for the building management dollar.
What can and do, Kenny, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that this is again part of the networked economy. Whatever got you to the show, so to speak, got you to the game. No matter how successful you were, if you don't change and evolve, you're going to get bypassed. And so the positive side is guys like Donny Walker at Realcomm Ibicon. If you don't believe me, go to a Realcomm Ibicon show and talk to the real estate professionals that are there. If they know more about their buildings and the technology than you do as a consulting engineer, you're going to have a hard time billing them and providing value. But the good news is education's right there. I mean, you just have to be open to it and embrace it. And that's part of what we try to do at ControlTrends. We have quite a few consulting engineers that are viewers on ControlTrends. So I'm not in any way, shape, or form bashing consulting engineers, but just like distributors have got to step their game up to stay relevant, systems integrators do. We've talked about that. And so do consulting engineers, and so do manufacturers. None of us are exempt. None of us get a free pass here. We all have to embrace the change that is upon us.
Well, and again, technology. Now you have like Honeywell has global engineered system services. Siemens has the same nature of support, so that you can have a lot of people being supported to certain levels from one central area. All these things are challenging the engineering community. My daughter is married to an engineer, and what's incredible about him is how hard he works. He became a certified engineer. He studies. He travels all the time, learning something new. So that every time I meet with him, we actually talk about it, because he's interested in building automation systems, but what they're working on in the technologies that they're doing and the tools they have are incredible. So on one hand, I know people they're very successful engineers, and I know a couple, like you said, that they're getting along in the tooth, and you don't know how to help them other than, like when you see those old specs and it's cut and paste, it's scary that's still, going out into the streets. And then contractors, of course, are, to them it's a matter of interpretation. There's no clear, concise, specification sometimes, and it's just the building owners lose, the school districts lose, people that shouldn't lose are losing out, and like you said, we all step up our game, and then everybody wins. So, but we better be careful what we say about engineers.
Well, no, I don't mean any disrespect to them at all, because I tell you, the same sort of rigor I look at rigorous lens I look at other professions. I look at the same through distribution, and my question always is the distributors, how do we stay relevant? What do we do? I got to tell you, Kenny, you and I are both big podcast watchers and try to stay informed. And it was a really, really incredible one that I watched this week, and we'll put a link in the show notes to it. We're big fans of a podcast a video cast called London Real, REAL, a guy named Brian Rose. And Brian had a guest on this week, Kenny. They call him the Don Draper of England. His name is Roy Sutherland. And Roy was a fascinating guy, Kenny, because his premise is that, among other things, his premise is that you could have the best product in the world if it's not packaged right, or if it's not framed right, you're not going to be successful with it. It just, you're not. So, and I think that is, listen to guys like Paul Oswalt talk from ESI, CB Richard Ellis. How we communicate with our customers and how we position our products or our offerings or our service is key. So I want to give you a couple of examples here that are sort of relevant to me. I don't know whether you know or not, I'm a photographer. I love photography. And I'm holding this camera right up here, which you can see. This is a Lumix GH7. It is the baddest camera on the planet in terms of it'll shoot 4K video. You can control it wirelessly. It'll shoot color. It'll shoot black and white. It'll autofocus. Anything you want to do with this camera, you can do. It is just an awesome camera. We shoot probably 95% of our videos with this camera, the Lumix GH4. This camera that I want to show you next, and this is going to be part of our conversation here. This is called a Leica. Okay, Leica's been around forever. It's a German company, Kenny, and this camera costs roughly 5 times what the GH4 camera cost, okay? It does not shoot color. It only shoots black and white. It does not have autofocus. You have to manually focus. You cannot communicate with it wirelessly. It does not shoot video. So why is it that people are willing to spend 4 to 5 times as much for this camera as they are opposed to the latest and the greatest? Well, this is something that we should all think about, because I think this gets back to what Roy Sutherland, the Don Draper from the TV show Mad Men, is talking about is the frame that you put it in. In other words, he says price is really irrelevant, but it's sort of the frame that you actually put it in. And so I say, Kenny, that is an area that our industry probably has room to grow in. So one of the features of this, and one of the principles, as near as I can tell, that Leica does that other people don't do, is Leica deliberately de-features, has less features, but they focus on doing one or two things really, really right. So with Leica, there's a mystique. Now, this particular camera that I just held up shoots the best black and white digital photographs anywhere on the planet. They do. That's what they specialize in. And for that, they're able to charge a premium. But so you look at how that industry, and the other industry, Kenny, that sort of gets to this thing, as a photographer, everybody shoots digital now. I mean, you can take your smartphone, for instance, and probably shoot, great images. You can alter them afterwards. Guess what and so film industry, Kodak went bankrupt. Company bought the last plant out, the last manufacturing plant, bought it from Kodak. Guess what the hottest trend in photography is now? People shooting film again. So it's coming back around. So that's one of the fastest growing areas in camera, because now it's become cool again to get that look and feel of shooting film. So that's the hottest trend. So I'm just saying, you start thinking about those as examples, Kenny, and then how does that apply to our industry and these changes we're going to? So maybe the winner of the race is not the one that has the best technology, but the one that has the best message.
Well, yeah, the messaging is so important, and we talked about pitch anything a while back, or in Claff's book on how you frame it in the elevator pitch from last week with Brent Farron, and even the 0 to 1. Talk about the salesmen and the storytellers. How it says that Silicon Valley nerds usually underestimate the role of sales and salesmen. They know their jobs are hard, so when they look at a salesperson laughing on the phone with a customer for 2-hour lunches, and they suspect no real work is being done, but the truth is that like the Leica culture and Apple, to me, Apple is the kings of culture.
Another great example. Yeah,
they just my daughter and all her friends they were so far into this Apple thing before I even knew what hit us. And how there's still, the big tangle between Apple and Microsoft. It's not over. In fact, they're still fighting as hard as they can for textualization and the contextualization inside of a house. They all want that. They want to put their system in there and have everything talk through your iPhone or talk through Samsung or, whatever. But the bottom line is that in our industry, the people that tell the story the best and have the best messaging and have the people that are probably sincere and develop that trust and have that rapport. At the end of the day, they're the ones that get the sales. And it just said that, some of the other observations about salespeople and about distribution. I mean, one of the things that might be our salvation as an industry and one of the most important services we provide is telling that story about products, about technology. But this comes right out of Silicon Valley. This is an excerpt from, again, 0 to 1. It says that you need to learn sales. Here's some core ideas. All salesmen or actors, their priority is persuasion. Obviously, there's bad, shady salesmen and whatever, but the good salespeople, they hide in plain sight. They know the metrics and the limits of their products, and they present that information effectively. They talk about the acquisition cost when you lose a customer. So it's all very good, but the personnel, we're evolving in our industry, but maybe that's what we could always become as better sales engineers. It's a great book, and the part about the salesman is very small. It's only like 3 pages, but the importance of the salesperson now is becoming more and more observable. You're seeing people that are still successful. Why are they successful? One of the things is that they're using the tools, the technology, and they tell a great story because they believe in it and they're sincere.
Well, no, Kenny, I think so. And sort of cycling back around to my first statement, which is I lay awake as a distributor, sort of obsessing about, what value, what role does a distributor add that nobody else can add. And the one thing that an Amazon cannot do for a controls manufacturer or, some of these multi online sites is they can't create the market. So I say the best skill that a distributor or a systems integrator or a consulting engineer, for that matter, anybody in our industry, if you want to differentiate yourself, you have to master the craft of taking these concepts and putting them in a frame that an owner or a user can understand. And a big part of that, Kenny, is how you create value with that. And Owen Clough, we talked about him. He wrote a book called Pitch Anything. Must read for anybody that's in our industry. So it has to be presented in a way that's understandable. Getting back to Roy Sutherland. So, Roy says that, again, getting the pricing is compared to what? So a lot of the framing is by comparing things to other things, and that's where people make their decisions. So great stuff. We'll put a link to the podcast there. And then another piece that Roy had, Kenny, that I really want to mention because I think this is critical. So when we talk about defeaturing items, okay, that doesn't go with taking away a great service or uniqueness. He gave a great example of Five Guys Burgers, which I think you've probably been to before. Have you ever been to Five Guys?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Sure.
the hamburger. So he was saying one of the deals with Five Guys, I guess he was in on a meeting with them. And so what happens is Five Guys, if you ever order French fries there, he pointed it out, you, whether it's medium, large, or small fries, what happens is they fill your cup up with fries, but then they put that in the basket, but they also put another big scoop in the bottom of the bag. So you're always getting more fries than you order. And so there's a very unique psychological principle that Roy talks about, which is the biggest bang you can get for your buck in terms of creating goodwill with customers is doing something that you don't have to do as a business person, that the customers know you don't have to do, and you do anyway. It creates huge goodwill. It creates a buzz. So apparently with Five Guys, the buzz is no matter what size order of fries you buy, you get additional fries. It's a big deal. People talk about it. I don't eat there that much, so I sort of miss this, but they give away free peanuts and stuff like that too. What he's saying, Kenny, is that with the Five Guys thing is that when the accountants come in, they need to make a little bit more money. They go, well, we can save, 5 cents every order or 3 cents every order or 2 cents every order. We just don't put these extra fries in. Mm-hmm. But what they don't realize is that's penny wise and pound foolish. So the very thing that creates that unique value, that buzz, because they did something that wasn't expected, goes away, and then they wonder why their sales start to go down. Unfortunately, I think Roy talked them out of that. But that's the kind of thinking that goes on when you have accounting versus marketing, and really, Roy, as well as Bold, as well as the book 0 to 1, they all start with focus on the customer experience first. So just some sort of examples. I'm wondering, Kenny, can you think of anything anybody does in our industry that's sort of a wow like that unexpected, that they don't have to do, but they do?
Well, I know the products that do. One I think the biggest one would be EasyIO's, the FG32. It comes with all those features, yep. and then they turn around and give you a tool. I think FX Johnson Controls, the FX Acid Light now. That's a giveaway now too. But that's a wow to me. Yeah. If I was a contractor and I'm starting out and I don't have a big overhead and the paperwork's a nightmare and tracking the jobs from start to finish and getting the punch list done and turning in the technical manuals required or now everything's on a thumb drive or digital. All the specs are digital, or the installation O&M manuals are now digital. So I think that's a wow. You talk about a giveaway where they're making your life easier to make it easier to buy their products. Yeah, I'd say there's two I could think of. I think Honeywell in the past has done that with some of their promos. But it's been I'm trying to think. Kind of caught me off guard there a little bit, but. Those would be two where I think they do.
I think those are two really good ones. I know in our business, for example, my brother came up with this idea probably 15 years ago. We've been doing it ever since, which is every box we ship out's got a treat in it. It might be a bag of peanuts, it might be a bag of popcorn, it might be whatever. And I tell you what, it's amazing when we run out of those things and don't ship them. We get calls from customers wanting to know where they are. So it's a big deal. Or sometimes people go, hey, can you put an extra couple of bags in for us? So it costs us a little bit of money, but it works. And I guess part of me bringing it up, Kenny, is I think, as we go to the networked economy, we look at differentiators. I think one of the big ones we just talked about is how you communicate, being able to sell, and not sell technically. I think the other piece of it is you've got to sell conceptually now more and more. So you got to begin to build business cases versus just technological sales. And we're learning from Realcomm, Ibicon, and these places, and guys like Tom Chertliff and Rob Merchants from Intelligent Buildings, guys like Mark Peacock. What we're learning is that multiple people are involved in the sale now. It's not just the building automation guy. It's not just the consulting engineer. It gets down to the CFOs are involved, the CEOs are involved, and things that they're concerned with is things like their brand, because being sustainable and showing that you're doing energy conservation is a huge marketing piece. If you don't have it, you're totally nailed. And we had a big account. I've mentioned that. Bottom line, we got the job because this guy, one of the reasons we got the job was because the guy was a fan of ControlTrends. He had people on his floor that worked for an environmental law firm, and they were always ragging him about, well, you're not doing enough to be energy sustainable. So we did a video showing all the great stuff they did to upgrade. It's important to the brand. It's been shown. Mark Jewell, our friend that teaches this stuff, says that, people can charge more rent if their building is Energy Star rated. They have less turnover if the building is controlled properly and people show up for work. So operational savings seem to be the big buzzword that we're hearing. So you have to sort of embrace that in your message. So we're kind of going around in circles here, Kenny, but I think the gist of it, one of the things we're struggling with is how to stay relevant. And so be very interested to get your views and comments. What do you do as a business? What's your business? What are you doing to stay relevant? And we sort of move on from there. What do you think, Big Dog?
Well, speaking of Mark Jewell, he's the one that said you'll probably talk to 6 people when you're doing the presentation, and be prepared to talk to them all. And each one of them has a perspective, and to know those perspectives and be able to address those satisfactorily, because it's not a one-man decision. It's everybody's got a stake in it. And I think going back to Tom Shirtcliffe, he said, the dialogue, and Bob Murchison, is that you've got to get everybody talking the same, on the same sheet of music, with the same understanding of importance and relevance, so that, a building, and they're trying to save money. They save money, like you said, a penny saved here causes a ripple effect somewhere else that you're losing $1. So you saved a penny, lost $1. And I think that happens in these big buildings. One of the coolest things that he did was a new the building in New York that replaced the Twin Towers. That is a building that they have everybody in unison. Everybody is using the QR codes, and those QR codes are updated by every single agency. It's a common pool. The database is accessible to everybody, so that you could be in this part of the building and know exactly what your inventory levels are, because the person that last checked the inventory or did something to the inventory, what he did is automatically, instantaneously updated into the database. So I think that's going to be what we're working towards, is that kind of efficiency and operational efficiencies as well, so that the thread that we're trying to get through is to be relevant and to be sustainable. You just got to get up, have a different attitude in the morning, and press on, and find out what you like. When we see a lot of guys out there that are successful, they have a passion that's unequaled. They actually love their jobs, and when you work with people that love what they're doing, it's hard to keep up with them if you're not having a good time.
That makes a big difference. Makes a big difference. Well, speaking of that, I'm not sure whether we're at that spot or not, but are we to the post where the guy who loves his job?
That's what I'm looking at, and it's the inaugural episode of BAS Control Pub Talk with Mad Mike Marston, and we're using that word madman. We're using mad, but when I used Mad Mike Marston, I think of the guy from Back to the Future, the scientist with the hair, because he was so passionate too about his ideas. But this is just a common, this is just a downright good post, because what you and I were doing, we were getting done with one of the conferences we were on, and we were beat. We were tired. We're putting stuff away, and Mike and we went out and had went to a very cool looking microbrewery / restaurant. You could see the big operations from the window. So we pulled in, and we started talking. Next thing you know, Mike goes, "You want to see this?" I said, "Yeah, sure." I didn't really think he was going to be able to do it. Next thing I know, he literally brought out the phone. He's plugging in things faster than I could ever do it, and he's got it up and running. And he showed us that error handling application, and he's just so happy with it, proud of it, and excited about it, that he didn't even realize how quickly he took it out of his case and put it up on display, because that's just, it's like scratching your ear. He could put stuff together and starts to sell his product and not even realize how easy it was for him to do it, and how it's contagious. And so it was a great episode. But I think what's happening is, because Mike is all over the world. He sent us a picture from Dubai that he shot from his car. I think it was on Monday, and today he's in India, So he goes all the way around the world. So you came up with the idea, hey, Mike, why don't you do do a little special event each time you see a pub. We'll call it the Pub Talk, BAS Control Pub Talk with Mad Mike Marston. So.
No, I tell you what. Well, it's a mad, mad, mad world, and when we call Mad Mike Marston mad, it is totally out of his passion. And what a fun guy to be around, and what a fun guy to be at the pub with. Because we talk controls a little bit. I pulled the camera out when he started talking about this stuff, but talk about a guy that has been around and done some really cool stuff, Kenny, and just a fascinating guy. So we came up with the idea for him called Mad Mike Marston's BAS Control Pub Talk, because Mike is in pubs all over the world. So we thought it'd be great for our community because, among other things, we're envisioning Mike introducing people from all over the world that are in the controls business. And I think, Kenny, that was one of the best takeaways we had from going to Madrid last year, is just how cool our industry is and how worldwide it is. Because we have, again, we met people from all over the world that are doing building automation controls. And who better than Mad Mike Marston, who is in pubs every night anyway, to take his camera out and shoot some episodes and share the world and share EasyIO technology with the world from the pubs. As a matter of fact, Kenny, I got to tell you, our next, I think any meeting we have in Atlanta right now with our integrators on EasyIO are going to be done at the pub. So we're setting up. I think Mike's going to set a new precedent. And I tell you what, if you think about it, that's kind of what we're talking about. You got a guy who's passionate. He's a great communicator, and he's going to be doing things a unique way. Who else is presenting for pubs, right? And who else could? I mean, realistically, think about it. There are not too many people that they could pull that off the way Mad Mike can. And you're right. We asked him about the technology. He goes, let me show you. We go, wait a minute. We're not in a training. We don't have any power. Don't need any power. Well, we don't have an internet connection. Don't need any internet connection. And then you get to that aha you're talking about, which you can see in the video. If you're doing one of his jobs, everything you need to submit is right there. It's right in the app. You don't have to go looking anyplace else. That to me is, somebody that is taken to the next level.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it. And like I say, it was an interesting week because we had conversations with people from all over the country, then all over the world. We found out that, for instance, Mike's traveling to India, and then a gentleman from India texted me yesterday evening that they just decided as a company that they're signing up for the show, the trade show in India, and I'll have the name of it in a second. It's let's see, where is it? I have it somewhere, but it's February 25th through the 27th, 2016. It's called the ACREX show in India, and it's very similar to our HR, air conditioning, heating, and refrigeration. And they do the a very large ASHRAE show there too. So they do a lot of training going on, a lot of CEUs. I think around the world we are finding things that are very similar. You have to maintain your status, so you have to get so many continuing education units. You go to these meetings, you go to the main meeting, you get so many points. You sit in an hour or two long seminar, and if they have any kind of completion things you do, you get points for it. And that's how you recertify yourself in your profession. So. We talked to him. We talked to my daughter happened to be out with dinner and her friends, and one of the guys asked her if he recognized her name and said, "Hey, is that do you relate to the guy that does a ControlTrends show?"
No.
She said, "Yeah," and he's out of Wallingford, Connecticut. It's a gentleman that works with Automated Logic, who has a great control line by itself. But I thought now the world's getting real small. I'm talking, getting a text from India. Mike sent the picture from Dubai, and so the ControlTrends presence. I got a kick out of it. I just absolutely love when people go and they say that they come to the ControlTrends site and it was valuable. There was information. It was pertinent, and just have to keep working hard, Eric.
I tell you what, Automated Logic. I mean, Kenny, think about it. They've been nominated so many times for the ControlTrends Awards, and you and I never really had an interface with them. So if anybody from Automated Logic is listening, I mean, there is a spot for you on ControlTrends. I mean, the fact that you guys get nominated and do well in the voting, and we have no presence, we don't have a presence for you here on the site yet, speaks volumes. So that sort of goes to, Kenny, even though you and I are both distributors, and we both do Honeywell, EasyIO, KMC, and other lines like that. We don't do Automated Logic. We don't do Delta. We don't do Distech, but those are all great product lines too. And the purpose of ControlTrends is a place where if you've got a control system, if you're relevant in the industry, you have something to say, we have a spot for you on Control Trends. So if you're somebody from Automated Logic that's listening, please reach out to me and Kenny. We'd love to talk about getting you on the show and getting some of your content up. ControlTrends@gmail.com, or you can find Kenny or me on LinkedIn, although I check my LinkedIn email about once every month. But Kenny's pretty religious about his. Ken Smyers at LinkedIn. But we'd love to hear from you, and we've had some talks with Distech. We're hoping to get them on the show too. But I think, Kenny, where Control Trends becomes part of that group dynamic, if you will, is the fact that this becomes relevant only if you and I don't filter things. If we let anybody that's relevant come through. Now, obviously, if you're not relevant, and what I mean by relevant is if you're not an established person or a nutcase or something, we're not going to let you on because we got to filter that out. But any manufacturer, anybody that's doing stuff in controls, you have a place here.
Eric, I was just looking through there. The web control, the web-based building automation system that was nominated last year, and I believe one of their controllers was nominated the MELGR, I believe it was. But like you said, I don't have any direct connection to Automated Logic, but they are very formidable in what they do, and they get their share of blood. That's for sure.
Yeah, same. Absolutely. All right, Big Dog, what do we have up next?
Next up, we had a gentleman named Winn from SmartCore. This was a video that you took at RealCom IBCon conference. I'll tell you what, very impressive guy. Very, very eloquent as far as professional. He's this company, SmartCore, is basically a master systems integrator. They have a lot of work is being done with the Fortune 500 companies. People have large portfolios. These guys are the real thing. They've mastered all the analytics, all the data. In fact, they're into the much higher level where they're doing fire and life, and they're doing security, and to put those all together in what he called a common GUI interface that was secure. Takes a lot of talent. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about the post?
Winn, super nice guy. We met him at Haystack and then got a chance to actually talk to him at RealCom IBCon. And Real is one of the principals at SmartCore based in Charlotte, North Carolina. And all you got to know about Will is he's smart enough to hire Fred Gordy, our buddy Fred Gordy, to bring him on. So very, very smart guy. They really focus on future-proofing solutions, Kenny. They look at it from a much higher level. They start at the enterprise level and then sort of work down. But as Will told me in the video, his background is from the IT side. And, you start looking, you got IT side, you got the OT side, and, the two meet. That's where we get the Internet of Things. Very, very bright guys. So I think it's a very informative video. And what these guys bring to the marketplace, like you said, they're coming at it from a little bit different angle. And if you're a consulting engineer that's not keeping up, these guys have a lot to offer. So, yeah, I
got a kick out of his IT plus OT is BIoT, so Building Internet of Things. But I really like their style. The way he said to him it was deja vu. This whole idea of making your network secure and everything, they were saying that they were telling that story 20 years ago and the importance of it. So coming from that IT really gives them a very strong base of that network security and understanding what your problems are, where you're going to run into problems, at certain levels. Like if they're doing a multi-tenant location, it's a whole lot different than a single location. And that was what he said too, is they do a lot of private, they're split between the private sector and the public sector. So hats off to them, and it was a great post.
No, it's a really good post. And I think these guys travel too, Kenny, and meaning that if you're an integrator and you've got 98% of the job done, but you need these guys to help add the thing on the top, you can. I think they deal with owners. They're an integrator, but they can help out. Just some of the cool people you get to meet in this industry, which is rocking and rolling, so to speak. And again, our friend Fred Gordy, who is now a contributor on Control Trends, the cybersecurity evangelist, works with these guys too. So that speaks volumes about how these guys roll. So smartcore.com, check them out.
All right. The last post we had was Get an Edge with Niagara 4 Head Start program. This was from Honeywell. And basically, it's that time. Niagara 4, the release is just around the bend. Honeywell came out with a program particularly or primarily for the distribution channel first, of course. And they have a Head Start program that's valid until July 31st. So there's a very lucrative incentive to get going now. and why the program is unique. You can deliver this message now. You don't have to wait. This is an incentive, and it's to get the head start, to get moving and grooving. And Niagara 4 is coming, and everybody is anxious to see it and see how it plays in their particular business model and configuration.
Really, really cool, Kenny. Well, listen, a lot of stuff coming up next week in terms of webinars and all, and I think you and I have started saying it'd probably be a good idea for us to give people a heads up so that they can get on these things as they come up, and we'll put links in the show notes so you can track those. But what are some of the things you got coming up this week, Kenny, that you see?
Well, they're a little bit maybe further out in the week. Core had a great webinar last week on the overcoming the challenges of pneumatic controls and deploying advanced analytic and energy saving strategies. We're going to try to work with them. They no longer Core. They're now a subsidiary of Jones Lang LaSalle. Right, but they have some great information. Yeah. But this was a very interesting webinar when they talk about the world of pneumatics. And I didn't know it as much as we work with pneumatics and everything. The operational issues related to pneumatics is its energy use, higher per square foot than new buildings, can't communicate with smart grid, tenant satisfaction, hot and cold, you got to get up out of your seat to change the set point. The facility team's not aware of a problem until the tenant complaints. The space looks dated, maintenance, fewer heads managing more square feet. So the older systems require higher labor, harder to troubleshoot. Lead points, you cannot get any lead points unless you can do continuous commissioning, which you cannot do with pneumatics, and it's disruptive that when you work on because the space is occupied. But this was a really, really interesting seminar about the facts of pneumatics. For instance, the estimated, this is from the Department of Energy, that 40% of the corporate building portfolio still use pneumatic thermostats. And the reason why that happened was because the way it was explained was that the space is always occupied, so it's difficult to get in and not be disturbing or disruptive, while the rest of the building, the equipment, is great access. The chiller, nobody's bothering you down there. You can put DDC there. Boiler rooms, all the air handlers, any rooftop units, and all that kind of equipment all got DDC'd, where the space that was occupied did not. And now to come in and put an invasive DDC system in there, they have an approximation. It would cost you $2,500 per pneumatic thermostat to bring that up to the same DDC standards as your equipment. So the purpose of this whole seminar was to introduce a very interesting service that these guys had the ability to bring a non-invasive wireless pneumatic technology, WPT technology. In 25 minutes, you can do a retrofit of taking off the pneumatic stat, put the DDC stat on, and get all the benefits of connected to the network. So you can do all your remote monitoring, all your set points, all your strategies for energy saving. So that was a heck of a good seminar. So what's coming up in seminars in the next...
Well, hang on a second while you're looking for that. So was that Cypress Technologies or Millennium? Or there are two people that do that?
It was Cypress.
Cypress,
yeah.
Okay. So again, it's when you replace it, it's still a pneumatic thermostat, but you're just able to communicate with it, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, that's cool stuff. We've seen those. We've sold some of them. They work well. And that's Darlene Pope from Core Technologies, now Jones Lang LaSalle. So I think got an interview teed up with her for next week. So very, very bright lady, and Jones Lang LaSalle is moving and grooving with this education. You can go to Core Technologies and sign up for them, right, Kenny?
You can register, and then you have access to all their archives.
Right. We'll see. We'll get you that link to that registration. We'll also see if Darlene will let us maybe post them on ControlTrends too, so you can watch them here as well.
All right. On June 30th, there's a webcast, Advances in Lighting Controls, a facility update. And this is from Building Operating Management. So, let's see. There's another one. There's National Facility Management, NFMT, announced that they're going to have their Orlando meeting. Registration is now open for the event that's going to take place October 27th through the 28th. So individual registrations or vendor registrations, if you want to go down there and put your stuff out for show. And then there's one other one coming up, the Realcomm IBCOM Advisory. This is a beginner's course, a beginner's guide to intelligent buildings. And this is being done by Rob Murchison and Tom Shirtcliffe of Intelligent Buildings. So that's going to be coming up here. So get to the Realcomm IBCOM site and register. And that's it. Most of them are smart. They're out there a long way. So you've got like the Smart Grid Initiative panel. You have what other one? But it's a DOE energy efficiency. These things are probably a month or two in coming, so we'll get those next week.
Well, sounds good, Kenny. We'll keep you posted on that. Look for the show notes for that. Hey, we really appreciate you tuning in. I'm Eric Stromquist. He is Kenny Smyers. Remember, have a great week, and remember, stay in control.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, Kenny Smyers.
That's a long one.
That's all right.